Good evening, everybody. We're going to start the August 23rd, 2022 board meeting for the Village of Shorewood. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Even Republicans.
Lana, roll call, please.
Mayor DeBold.
Here.
Trustees Brockman.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Kirkland. Here. Luciano.
Here.
And Selfridge.
Here.
All right, all of our board is present. We did change our agenda a little bit for this evening. We have a couple of other items that we do need to attend to. Right out of the gate, we are going to swear in a new police officer. It'd be Officer Kevin Benson. He does come to us with about 8 years previous experience, which will help him in regards to our field training time so we can get him on the street a little sooner. Joining him this evening is his mother, Mary, and his fiance, Kenna. So if you will join me, we will swear in the officer. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Kevin Benson,
Having been appointed to the position of police officer
having been appointed to the position of police officer
in the police department of the Village of Shorewood,
in the police department of the Village of Shorewood,
County of Will,
County of Will,
State of Illinois,
State of Illinois,
aforesaid,
aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
to support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the ordinances of the Village of Shorewood,
and the ordinance of the Villages of Shorewood,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Don't stab it. Ow.
7 more days for insurance,
Not a practice session. There it is. It's okay. It looks good. You got it. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congrats.
All right. With that, I do ask, our next business item would be an executive session to discuss collective negotiation matters between the Village of Shorewood and its employees. I ask for a motion to go into executive.
I'll second.
Motion Kirkland, second Selfridge. Roll call, please.
Carroll.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kirkland.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
And Brockman.
Yes.
All right. We are in executive. We will be back out shortly. Back to order here at 7:16. At that, we move into our citizens' comment portion for this evening. Our first speaker would be Jim Lynch, and so everybody's aware, this is just public comment. This is not a public hearing. This is just a regular village board meeting, so I do ask that you try to keep remarks to 3 minutes. But Mr. Jim Lynch.
Good evening, Mayor, Board,
Evening, sir.
again?
No, sir.
Not
Just
tonight.
public,
Okay.
just public, yeah. If you would just state your name for the record.
All right, my name is Jim Lynch. My wife Maria and I live at 331 National Drive in Shorewood, Glen. And I want to thank you for the opportunity for all of us to be here to address all of you. And first thing I want to do is, Natalie, I want to say, where'd you go? There. Thank you for providing me with some drawings about the Hamptons project that I was curious about that cleared up some of the issues, so thank you. Again, I have more questions. I'm not making a speech, just going to ask some questions. If you can answer them, I'd appreciate it. One, will there be a traffic light installed on Jefferson and Windstone?
Public comment.
I'm sorry?
This is just public comment.
Okay. I hope there will be. I hope there's a plan to lower the speed limit down to 35 between the railroad tracks and River Road. I hope there's a plan to make the intersection of Del Webb Boulevard similar to the Jefferson and Windstone area, laid out similarly. I'm hoping that IDOT's been involved in some of this. The previous conversation I had with IDOT is that there were no plans for anything on Jefferson Street. The plan showed that the extension of the road across from where I live into the Hamptons is going to be called Del Webb Boulevard, which I think is a bad choice for us. I think it identifies our subdivision, and that should be named something else, like Maddox Way or Hampton Lane, something other than Del Webb Boulevard. There was other comments that I've heard about the Hamptons has been considered because there was no commercial plan yet been offered in the last 20 years for the same space, same ground out there. Well, the thing is, once the Hamptons is built, there's never going to be space there for commercial property. And I would ask also that you all consider delaying your vote on whether you're going to do this another couple of weeks or so to allow for more public input. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Daya?
Hello, I'm Patricia Dia, and I live in Shorewood, Glen. I am opposed to the Hamptons development across from our development. I don't think there's been enough information given, and the transient nature of the rentals is not something I think is good for Shorewood.
Thank you. Steve Feisick?
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity to speak. I just want to voice my objection to the proposed rental community coming in here. I moved my family into this town for the small town values. I used to work in this town. I loved it so much that I moved my family in. And I know it's trendy to look at these rental communities, rental homes, rental apartments, as it's a way to make some money now. It's the trend that's happening all over the place. But what makes Shorewood special is that we kind of fight against these trends for what's good for our community. I know the fix is probably in. You guys probably already know you're going to vote. You got friends that are going to make big money off of this. But please reconsider for the sake of all of us in this community that actually care, have kids that are being raised here. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Lederer?
My name is John Leder, 714 Pleasant Drive. I've been against this from the beginning, I'm against it now. The higher the density you get in population of rentals, the more crime you're going to get. Good example was they just robbed a bank here just a couple of days ago. I talked to a couple of policemen, they said, every time you get rentals, you get a lot of trouble because renters don't care. They're just here and they're gone. I think this is a bad, bad move. There's a lot of other things we can use out here. Single-family homes are much better than this. I know it's probably a foregone conclusion, but everybody in Hawkman and Shorewood Glen says if they come in here, they're out of here.
Thank you. Robert Weir.
Robert Weir, Shorewood Glen, against the project. I don't think we need rental property across from single-family dwellings. If you want to put it someplace else farther out, that's one thing. This gentleman tried to put apartments across the street here, and it wasn't passed, which was the greatest idea, which I saw coming from the city of Chicago, a community that actually listens to its residents. So with that, I say no.
Thank you. Carolyn Scalan? I'm sorry if I had said it wrong.
His name is hard and the last name is Scallon. Carolyn Scallon, I live in Shorewood Glen, and I am opposed to the Hamptons projects. The comment that I have to make is kind of what the last gentleman talked about was a couple of years ago, there was a big push to put the apartments over there, and that was voted completely down. Okay, everybody was happy. Now we have the developer coming back, and he's wanting to put apartments and townhouses and rental retail stores. So to me, I think he just kind of tried to sweeten the deal with the retail stores and the rental. The townhouses, no senior is ever going to be able to live in there in a two-story townhouse. So, and aside from that, I think he's creating a giant traffic problem on 52 over there. If, as that gentleman said, you want to go farther out, take this project, put it over there where you wanted it before. Maybe that might be a solution. And you wouldn't, if we have to have it, and you wouldn't have the congestion for the people in the houses over there, Del Webb, and thank you.
Thank you. Jim Blackburn?
It's Jim Blackburn. My opposition to this whole development has got me so heated. After 40 years of watching this kind of behavior in our village, we made bad decision after bad decision on things, such as when, not this board, but past boards did things like put Del Webb where they did it. And they keep making mistakes, and we don't think out front. Del Webb never belonged there. We have no through streets through our village. When growth goes out west here, who's gonna drive Jefferson Street, Sile Road, and Black Road? That's your three thoroughfares is all you've got. But that decision that was made years ago by then that board has screwed us for a lifetime out here. We're never gonna, and now this development wants to put a private road in this development. That's all we need is another private road. How are people gonna get through this village, especially when you add 10 more thousand people here? But nobody's thinking out front. They really aren't. Another example, a few years back, this board decided they had to go smaller in houses right across the street here because no development was gonna happen. Well, lo and behold, look at the bigger homes over there now. But yet, this board downsized the lots and homes over there, which impacted the value of these homes over here. The 3,000 square foot homes now are impacted dramatically. Just ask all those real estate agents who piled in here 2 weeks ago and tried to sell you a bill of goods. Ask them what the value does when you have a 3,000 square foot home next to a 1,500 square foot home. But we didn't think this one through. We did not think it through. And this board should think this through thoroughly because I cannot believe how many dumb things we've done in the last 10 years, all trying to speed things up. You know, I mean, I'm for development. I'm all for a strip malls in the front here, no problem. But I tell you what, multiple family dwellings are nothing but trouble, period. I worked in retail for 37 years, and every time I was transferred to a store that had apartments nearby, guess what happened? High theft. High theft. I managed a store down in Manuka down there, and the apartments right there, right nearby, almost all my shoplifters were out of there. I know what multiple family dwellings bring. And there's no skin in the game when there's people that go in there and they pay their rent and they're gone. And more importantly, which I brought up 2 weeks ago, is our schools. We can't pass a referendum. And I cannot believe you folks should be thinking about our kids, but we have tried to pass a referendum for Manuka time and time again, and we can't. And the schools are packed. And I don't foresee it happening in the future. Another decision this board made was they brought Del Webb in, and guess what? That's a voting block against referendums. And they can't pass a referendum for schools. So now you want to keep bringing more kids in here, but we have a voting block against schools. How are you folks going to help fix that? I heard 2 weeks ago a board member, an adult who had a wife worked in Troy schools. They have 4 teachers sharing two classes, and 2 teachers sharing a gymnasium stage. I mean, I can only speak on behalf of Manuka. I was on the school board there years ago, and multiple family dwellings always brings massive headaches, and the thing is, we don't have the school space. We have the space right here in South Road, and every election, because I'm an election judge, I can tell you that Del Webb votes 95% no on all school referendums. And as long as we have that issue there, we're never going to pass it. And you folks keep on wanting to bring in more apartments? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. We ought to stop now and think. Because if we had stopped and thought about across the street here or Del Webb, guess what? Things may be a little bit different now. But now we want to put another private road over here? How is that going to cut off access to us? Think about it, folks. Think about it, because this is going to impact us for the next 50 years. What we did in Del Webb, we did over here, it impacted all the citizens, especially our kids. Just think about it.
Thank you. Deb Olson.
I first of all want to apologize for not being here the last 2 meetings. I wasn't able, but I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm Debbie Olson. I have been a resident of Shorewood since 1985, and I served on this board's Planning and Zoning Commission for 18 years, just leaving it last November when I retired from it. So I have given of myself, my service, my family's time, my time to this village. And I've done that because I've seen the dedication, the care, the time, the thoughtfulness that everyone that sits at this table now or sat at that table 10 years ago, 18 years ago, gives to this village. So I was proud to be part of that. The first time that I was involved sitting on a Planning and Zoning Commission in the early 2000s, we had a big controversy. Our big controversy then was the size of our lots. There's a couple people still on this board that will remember that in those days. We had 12,000 square foot ordinance for lots for single-family homes only in Shorewood. But Shorewood was being swallowed up. Joliet had every plan in place to surround us, and our little sleepy village would be the little sleepy island. It wouldn't grow, it wouldn't prosper. And then a few far-sighted members of this board, our staff, and a few good developers stepped forward and said, we need more homes that are reasonably priced. We need smaller lots to be able to do this so we can increase the number of homes. And despite all the controversy, and it was the same kind of controversy, it happened. And because it happened, we have Fox Bend. We have Del Webb. We have these fine communities that are not sitting on 12,000 square foot lots. And because we have those communities, we have rooftops. And rooftops help our demographics. And it's our demographics that cause businesses to want to come here, businesses that we desperately have always wanted. We got a Jewel. We got Target. We got a Mariano's. We've got tons of little restaurants. But we shouldn't stop there. I hear over and over again from villagers, where's our Whole Foods? Where's our Trader Joe's? Where's our Olive Garden? We don't have the demographics yet. We need more rooftops, and we need to lower the median age of the people who live in Shorewood. And believe me, I'm in my 70s. I'm one of them that's tipping it the other way. But my 25-year-old grandson with a wonderful job and who can afford $2,000 a month for his rent had to go and get on a waiting list in Minooka and a waiting list in Joliet to live close to his family, he who was raised in Shorewood. These young, vibrant professionals need to have a place to stay in their own community. And it isn't just my 25-year-old grandson. It's so many people that are saying, I want to sell my house, Debbie. I'm a realtor. I want to sell my house, Debbie, and I'll be happy to sell it for you. But where are you going to go? Well, we want to rent a place until we decide where we want to land. We want to sell our house high now, and we want to rent. There is no place to rent because rentals are now the direction that the country is going into. This is the future. We took a step towards that future back in the early 2000s. With boards that are committed to our community, we have continued on.
Can you kind of wrap up, please?
I'm
Thank
right
you.
there. I'm right there, Cece. It's time to take another step. It's time to move to the future and Shorewood to, again, become vibrant and moving. And I want to take a moment to thank Ed Maddox. Thank you for the Hunt Club. Thank you for Lake Forest. Thank you for Fox Bend. This man has done a lot for Shorewood, and we have a lot to thank him for. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Miller.
Good evening, all. I'm Sharon Miller. I live in Shorewood Glen. I've been in this community for 15 years. I definitely oppose the plan for this Hamptons, and how can I say this? And I think that, yes, we need to progress. We need stores. We need a center. We need more housing. But I think that just piling people on top of people is not the answer to our. When I envision a town center, I envision a town center like I see in a lot of southern places, a lot of upscale places, without any streets, without any cars, without any bicycles, where families can walk and talk and enjoy. I see businesses, doctors, lawyers, dentists, family-type restaurants, a place where a woman can walk with a buggy and not have to look around a corner for a car going to hit her kid, okay? I think this was all done too fast, and I think that needs to be more thought and perhaps compromise. I was looking at a town center. That's one of the things like I said, I would not want an apartment on top of a building or a business or what have you. I'd want sunshine. I want plants. I'd want benches. I want a place where families could walk and talk. Neighbors meeting neighbors. Not what we've got here. I left Chicago because I had it in Chicago. I had it all my life, okay? I thought this was a kind of Mayberry town, but as of now, I don't believe it. I think we're going in a different direction that we should never have gone towards. And I believe that homeowners or even condo owners would take more pride in what they own and take care of it. And they would also want to be good neighbors. And I am totally opposed to it at this time. Like, as I said, more thought, perhaps compromise. And we'd like to know it more openly, not as it is right now. Right now, we're kind of shuttered out. We don't hear enough of it. What about the people here, yeah, okay? Can't we be involved? Can't we have suggestions? Can't we have a voice in this place that we live, that we've invested our money with our homes? This is not fair to us. And putting people on top of people on top of people in buildings, I've seen it happen in Chicago, and I've seen what happened in various neighborhoods. But we want to keep that small town feel, at least I do, and many people in Shorewood Glen like that small town feeling. Please consider my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Kaiser, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and the board. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak about this. I moved here about 6 years ago in Sherwood Glen, and I chose Sherwood Glen because of the area that's around here. And you kind of hate to lose that. And what I'm opposed of is having these apartments. Every time you have apartments, you have problems. Listen to everybody that's been here already. It's already spoken. Now, the thing is, I'm all in favor of having progress. But the problem is when you bring certain people in that don't take care of their properties, everything goes down. This is not what we wanted. This is what we chose this, Sherwood Glen, to be able to live here the rest of our lives, how many more years it might be, to have a good place to live and call it home. Please consider my thoughts and say no to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Sink.
Hi, I'm Deborah Sink. I have not seen the plans yet, but just from what I've heard, I am opposed to rental properties. We live in Shorewood Glen. We take pride in our home. We have been here for 9 years. We moved from Frankfort, and that's a small town community, just like Shorewood. And we've seen what rental properties do to communities, and we see how people in rental properties take care of their places. They pretty much go downhill, and they bring the property values down. And we take a lot of pride in our home. We do continuous work on our property and try to increase the value of our property, so we really wouldn't appreciate something going in that's going to decrease the value. So if that's what it's going to do, we're completely opposed to it, so please consider putting this in. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Persichetti.
Hello. Last time I was in front of you, I gave you some actual data on how this will not harm values of the properties. It'll actually increase them. You've got residents that have been here a long time. I've been here 16 years that are all for this project, and obviously you've got some residents that are against it. So whatever you decide, it's not going against what the residents think. You have a tough decision on your hand. In my opinion, if I was sitting there, it's not a tough decision. This is much needed housing stock, and the positives are there. They're tangible. The negatives are all possibilities. And I don't see it happen with this type of project. Thank you all.
Thank you. Chris Dre.
Thank you, Mayor. I had an opportunity to talk at your planning and zoning public hearing and at your last board meeting. I am in support of this project. I believe I'd sent your staff and yourselves all a memo or an email stating that. I think Deb Olson did a great job in showing some of the history that has been done in this community, taking some opportunities that some people thought were not great and made it a good community. So thank you.
Thank you. And Nora Grunberg? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nora Grudenberg. I'm from the Illinois Realtors, and I've been coming around to these meetings for the past few weeks. And the objections that I'm mostly hearing are based on stereotypes about renters and rental units. Renters are all of us. They're just like us. Renting property is a choice that many people from all walks of life are making. But renting is not a trend, and neither are apartment buildings, and neither are mixed-use developments. Renting is a preference for many people and a necessity for others, but renters are required to prove themselves in ways that single-family homeowners are not. And I think it's discriminatory to think that renters are not as good as anyone else. But this unit is not only rentals, it is mixed use, restaurant, retail. You know, you have rental, condos, you know, homeowners living there too. And it promises to bring all the things that people want, businesses, restaurants, boutiques, and it's located in the heart of town. So where better to bring these housing and business opportunities? And is the police department not located in close proximity to this development? So it would seem that, you know, eyes would be on it for those who are concerned about safety. So I just want to know what people are afraid of and where they're getting their data that renters bring, you know, hellfire and brimstone. Why is it a bad thing to want to attract more residents to your village? Why is it a bad thing to bring more housing to this village when there is a housing crisis, period, across the board, not just here, across the United States? And I just don't see how increasing the population around here won't help to solve some of your problems with traffic. Because I think that you need more growth in order to, I don't know, inspire IDOT to really take an interest. So maybe increasing your population around here will force IDOT's hand to come out and, I don't know, maybe put in a traffic light. And maybe compromise is the key. Maybe calling it Maddox Way instead of Del Webb could be a possibility, but who am I to say? Basically, all I'm hearing here is that the issue with this is that when renters come, towns fall apart. But I think if you look around, Naperville is a great example of a municipality that has lots of rental opportunities. It's a beautiful town. It's got a beautiful town center. This too could be a beautiful town center if you bring more residences and businesses here. So I really hope that you will approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any other citizens that didn't sign in that are wishing to address the village board? Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead. Yep. Please state your name for the record, though.
My name is Denise Harina. I've lived in Shorewood for over 30 years now, over on Old Ivy Road. I worked in Orland Park for 37 years, and I've seen them go through a transition when they put up apartment buildings along 143rd Street. They tried to do this, and before you know it, they were renting apartments that were very wonderful apartments, and they were collecting a lot of rent, and all of a sudden they had to go to Section 8 by the government. So due to the Section 8, and this was only a couple blocks away from residential homes besides. So then within another year or two, the first neighborhood west of the apartments started selling their homes. Then the next year, the subdivision next to that one started selling their homes. Then the year after that, the subdivision after that. You can check with the former mayor on all this. Because I worked with builders, that's what I did for 37 years. So looking at all the history of that, what I'm seeing what you're doing is very disturbing to me. very disturbing, because I love Shorewood. And when I see all this stuff about renters coming in, not that the fact that they're renters is the whole idea of what's going on. Are we going to make any tax money, make the village expand from renters? No, there is no tax money from renters. There is none. This is going to go to Section 8. These buildings going to go to Section 8, and from what I understand, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, from what I understand, of rented property. Hundreds and hundreds, from what I understand. It's a lot coming in here. I don't see the advantage to our community because we aren't going to make the tax money from it. What is the benefit? What is the benefit of doing this rather than building more homes? That's where your tax money is building more homes. That's where it comes from. Why aren't we building more homes rather than building these buildings? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All you're going to do is drive out the people that own homes right now. I've seen it done in Orland Park, and it's destroyed Orland Park. Just destroyed it. The inner city of Orland Park has been destroyed. Not the outer part, but the inner part is totally destroyed. Totally destroyed. Think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Georgine Panagiotaris, and I've been a Shorewood resident for 33 years, and I too am against this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Did you already speak? You can't go back up. All right, we're moving on. Moving on to this evening's consent agenda. Approval of the regular meeting minutes, August 9th, 2022. Approval of the accounts payable in the amount of $435,157.26. Approval of the payment in the amount of $13,977.96 to TRIA for the new Public Works facility. Approval of a payment in the amount of $11,100 to TRIA Architecture for the Diana Park and Kitts Corner reconstruction. Approval of the payment of amount of $10,350 to Pyrotechno Fireworks for the Crossroads Festival. Approval of the payment in the amount of $41,994.24 to Ron Turapelli Ford for a 2022 F-150 Interceptor for the Police Department. And finally, approval in the payment in the amount of $83,504.48 to DeRazio Ford for two 2022 Explorer Interceptors for the Police Department. Are there any items that a member has any questions regarding or needs adjustments to the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion Luciano, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Chapman?
Yes.
Kirkland?
Yes.
Luciano?
Yes.
Selfridge?
Yes.
Brockman?
Yes.
And Carroll.
Yes.
Okay, consent is approved. Reports and communications. Lana, have you received anything for that?
I do have one email that was addressed to Natalie. Natalie, I have been present at the last two meetings regarding this new project. I have been very disappointed how the opponents of this project have misquoted or used the change in laws meant to protect a variety of individuals to single out, quote, Section 8, unquote, participants. This bill also protects disabled veterans receiving Social Security benefits as their only source of income, or single parents receiving child support / spousal support / alimony as their only source of income. If we are going to use it, let's be fair. It is meant to make sure that landlords cannot discriminate against someone solely based on where their income comes from when it is not employment-based. As a transplant from Chicago and Brookfield, we had no idea what Shorewood was going to be like. As a young family, we took a chance and knew we could always move again if we didn't like it. We have been here since 2004. Many of the new homes, stores, or other buildings you are sitting in did not exist then. As a resident, I have appreciated how Shorewood has grown modestly. We were not priced out of our homes with tax increases as other communities were in the early 2000s. At this time, our growth has become stagnant. Risk is something that needs to be taken for progress/growth to be made. Progress and growth are like change. They can be scary, though necessary. As we grow through, we adjust to the news. Adjustments at each stage of growth will be needed, such as traffic lights or reduction in speed limits. All the market statistics show us we are short millions of new home starts across the United States. If you are paying attention, we have seen these types of multi-use plans work in areas like Bolingbrook, Romeoville, and Plainfield. Yes, we are experiencing a recession. Housing inventory is still low. Buyers are more creditworthy now than before, and the housing market is more stable compared to years ago. No one has a crystal ball. The village has not failed us yet. As a realtor and resident of Shorewood, I trust they will make the best decision for us moving forward, and I support this project. Rhonda Altman. And
Thank
that is
you.
all I have
That was
tonight.
the only one? All right, thank you. All right, move into this evening's order of business. I have number one, to be consideration for approval of an ordinance approving an amendment and annexation agreement with the development agreement of the Hamptons. This is up for a second read. Ms. Engel.
Yes, I believe Mr. Silverman is going to start talking about the agreement, and then I will jump in with a description of the updates.
Yeah, I didn't really have too much on the agreement. It's virtually the same agreement that you had before you at the last meeting. We cleaned up a couple of grammatical errors. That was it. No substantive changes since the last meeting. If this agreement is approved, then you're obligated by the contract to approve the PUD ordinance and the development. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
And because we presented the project at length at the last meeting and the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I'm going to keep my presentation to just updates since the last meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Jim, if you could put up the slide presentation, that would be great. This, as we mentioned last time, is a planned unit development. It's for mixed use. There's 3 different types of buildings. There is some retail land in front, there's mixed-use buildings along Windstone, townhome-style buildings along the north end of the project, and rental home buildings in the center. That's shown up on the screen. At the last meeting, several concerns were brought up. There haven't been any substantive changes to the plan, but we have worked with the developer over the past couple of weeks to address some of the things that he could address. So I'll just go through those quickly. There were some questions at the last meeting in terms of how many people could occupy one of the dwellings. For the rental dwellings, he's confirmed that he'll have a maximum 4 people per unit, and that's including adults and children. So, if you were a couple with 2 children, that would be the maximum. We also tightened up the PUD language to prohibit some of the less desirable uses. Typically, B3 the B3 zoning district, which this is in, would allow warehousing, contractor shops, pawn shops, tobacco and vape shops, and payday loan type businesses. These are completely prohibited per this agreement, so they would not be able to bring any of those businesses in. Mr. Maddox has provided us with a list of rules and regulations that he's drafted up for the development. I'll let him go through those, but they address things like quiet time, like where people can put their barbecue grills, what they can store on their balconies, aesthetic things like that. So I'll let him go through those. There was some concern about storage that came up since the meeting and bicycles on balconies and everything. So he has converted 2 of the garages into smaller storage units, which people can rent or use for the storage of bicycles or kids' toys and things like that. They've also, some concerns were brought up about, what about if, there's a handicapped unit in each building, and there are 2 ADA parking spaces, say, for a 16-unit building. But what if somebody else falls and gets hurt and there's a need for an additional ADA parking space? So we did put language in there that if there was a need for an additional parking space for a building, 2 parking spaces could be combined to accommodate that. So they wouldn't have to jockey over the 1 parking space. They've also let us know that they're going to be putting 2 gas grills in by the clubhouse for the use of the residents, so that way they don't need to worry about having things on the balcony and any risk of fires. On the next slide, this just shows the list of rules and regulations. I'll let Mr. Maddox address these when he speaks, but they're just really trying to address the appearance of the units from outside and to make sure that for the rentals, it's kept in a very neat and tidy situation, and the developer will be taking care of all of the grounds and landscaping and whatnot. These are the 2 locations. I just put 2 dots to show you where the gas grills would be. I know a lot of people were asking questions because of concerns about having grills on balconies and things like that, so we just wanted to show you that. There were a number of questions about vehicles and parking. So the developer has confirmed that they'll be issuing parking stickers for each vehicle. They'll be checking them regularly. They'll also have a limit on the size of vehicles, so nothing larger than a van would be permitted. So we won't be seeing large vehicles or trucks or very large work vehicles. Let's see. They will be installing some infrastructure for electric vehicle charging because that's becoming more popular. So the garages will be outfitted so that if people come in and they want to charge their electric vehicles, they'll be able to do that. And then they're going to put the infrastructure in the ground, so like the data lines and the electrical lines, so that when that trend catches on, or if it catches on, they'll just be able to, contract with a company to install that infrastructure, so then they can have electric vehicle charging in the parking lots. They've also made sure that nobody's allowed to have any extension cords or anything like that would make it unsafe. And then there were also some questions about security cameras, and they've confirmed that they do put security cameras for their use on all of the garages and everything. So there's a total of 24 security cameras going in there. So we just wanted to show you that plan. That is really all the updates. What was attempted was trying to address some of the smaller items that were concerns that people brought up that they were able to address, and the developers here as well, if you'd like more details on the rules and regulations.
Thank you. From the petitioner, do you guys anything that you would like to add, or?
Actually, I think Natalie explained it quite well, and we were very diligent in refining our plan, where cameras.
Okay, thank you. So in regards for the board, just so everybody's aware, in regards to the board, I participated in a phone call with IDOT today. The Public Works Director was involved, the administrator was on the call, and our senator from the 49th that represents right out in front here. So we did express the initial call, this is going to be a little off on this one, but the initial call with IDOT, of course, is addressing the traffic concerns at Route 52 and County Line Road. The fact that the state of Illinois has acknowledged that there is some traffic concerns out there. So they are looking at doing a roundabout that still appears to be on track for about the 5-year timeline. They're working on finishing up their phase 1 engineering right now on that. And then they'll move into phase 2A and 2B, which is funding and land acquisition. So they did acknowledge that. Moving from that, I did express there was a potential if a development of this nature was on our agenda for this evening, if this item was approved, how that might impact traffic, and would we cross some thresholds for a warrant regarding a traffic light. Speaking with our traffic engineer from our engineer company, they believe that warrant is met if the project's approved. The state of Illinois, when we spoke with Director Rios on this, they seem to acknowledge the same thing, knowing that there is traffic concerns out there. They also acknowledge the fact that Route 52 and Ridge Road is getting a traffic light. We brought forward the fact that there is an S-curve out there. Balch Road is at like a 180-degree combined intersection. The fact that we've got, the Shorewood Town Center is now complete. There's 350 homes in here. We have 800 homes in Shorewood Glen, and we have a school right up this street. They were so kind to pull up a Google map and verify everything I said. So, but they did do it. They pulled it up, and they left it in regards to a traffic light. The concern is if we meet the warrants, basically meaning in short, if this project's approved, our engineer believes we can apply for a traffic light and meet the threshold. If it's not approved, it would be status quo. In regards to a speed reduction, I did address that as well. And off the little Google map, they wanted to see from the street view, they saw exactly what I referenced. There's a speed limit of 50 miles per hour right outside the Shorewood Glen entrance. They did acknowledge that. They said, oh, look, it's right there. I said, I'm not going to lie to you. With that, we also referenced the fact that the village is doing more and more events. We have lots of people on foot crossing back across the street on Whinstone in the evenings at a 50 mile per hour intersection at Whinstone and Route 52 with an unlit, unmarked roadway. So they did acknowledge that. They did state they would be willing if we requested to do a speed reduction. Generally speaking, a speed reduction would only be 5 miles an hour. Generally, that's all the state would allow. They did state there are circumstances that it might be applicable, that they may get a little bit more, but I did push my request was their speed reduction at County Line Road. With that being said, again, I reiterated I-80 is going to be under construction in the next few years, and that's going to push further traffic down Ridge Road and down Route 52. We acknowledge the fact that the state of Illinois is widening Route 52 from River Road down to Route 59. We're talking about a 7-lane intersection down there. So we acknowledge the state itself is doing a variety of other improvements that are going to have a direct effect on our residents. They acknowledge that, and they would do the study upon our request. Now, they did tell me during the study in that case, it's done during peak hours, generally when schools and whatnot are in session, to try to find the most impactful times to give their traffic warrants. So otherwise, shy of being able to submit formal documentation and formal request to show approved platting of any type of developments regarding traffic lights and doing the phase 1 study from the village's side to meet the warrants or the thresholds for a traffic light. That's where that stands. In regards to a speed reduction, they have to do a speed reduction. They have to do their own study. That state does it themselves. And of course, they would not tell us the times they would monitor because the question came up. And they would not disclose when they would do such. So, but I just want to reference to everybody, we did have a conversation with the state. We are addressing those concerns, and we're trying to get definitive answers. In that regard, and I don't know how the board will vote, if this project is platted and approved, I will bring forward the phase 1 engineering at our next meeting to initiate that. Due to the fact that the village itself has been budgeting for the traffic light, the village has been doing the legwork for the improvements at Whinstone and Route 52, and that's been done on previous boards because we knew at some point it was going to come. But we knew the growth had to come to the west at some point. When it gets there, we can meet those warrants, we can meet those thresholds. And that is all done by previous boards and the forethought of doing responsible growth as we move west. So I wanted to at least touch on the traffic aspect simply because that conversation was this morning. And again, shy of having physical documentation of approvals, the state can't just tell me on the web call when we were there, they can't just say, yes, you got it, but there is a documentation, there is a process that we have to do. And we will do that if warranted. In regards to that, everybody's touched on development, so I'll touch on this at this point. I've had the opportunity from Party in the Parks. I've had the opportunity from the Crossroads Fest a week or two ago. We've had a variety of emails, and I know a variety of the boards had the emails. There's been a lot of conversation. Sure, there are some people that are concerned about just the nature of development. There are other people that are very supportive of this development. Trustee Chapman touched on it at our last meeting about the growth. When Jewel came in, everybody was against the Jewel Osco going in, and Dominic's, the gas and wash. Anytime there's been development, there always seems to be some sort of pushback, and rightfully so, and rightfully concerned for the residents that are paying attention as to what's going on. Impact to schools, by all means, we're very cognizant of that. And Ms. Engel worked with can you reference the document? I don't have it in front of me.
Oh gosh, I believe it's called the Illinois School Survey. It was a document that was created by a school consultant in Naperville on behalf of a number of school districts.
And in regards to that, that conversation has been had with the superintendents. So in regards to school impact, we have worked with the superintendents to make certain that legitimate concerns are being addressed as to what type of impacts would go to the schools. Staff has worked very diligently with the builder. They have addressed concerns from this board. This board has addressed concerns from residents for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks as this project's been out there on the table. With that, I leave it over if there's any other questions or comments that any of the board members have for Ms. Engel or the petitioner.
I've got a question, Mayor, please. Natalie, for the B3 restrictions, can you just clarify, that's just for this development? Does that apply to the future retail space?
No, so the future retail space is really completely separate. It's not part of this approval. So it only applies to the property that Mr. Maddox is developing.
Okay.
If in the future they come in and they want to do a planned unit development, we could bring up the same.
That would have to
types
go
of
through
requirements.
this whole process?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then my last question, the rules and regs, that's not part of the PUD, right?
That's not part of it because it will evolve over time, but it is something the developer has committed to doing. So we thought it would be helpful to know,
Okay.
but it's not part of the document.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. Anybody else? And if I recall, this came from planning and zoning with a 6-0 vote. Is that correct?
Correct. And it requires 5 votes from this board to pass.
Okay.
Nobody else has any questions? I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance approving an amendment to the annexation agreement and development agreement, the Hamptons.
Second.
Motion Brockman, second Kirkland. Roll call, please.
Kirkland,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
No.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
and Chapman.
Before I vote, I got to make a statement here. I really respect the developers of this project, and I think that they've done a great job. Ed and his companies have done a great job. And this has probably been the hardest vote. Of course, I used to sit over there, so I didn't have to vote. But this has been the hardest vote for me to make. And 30 years ago, I had a vision of a town center for Shorewood because we didn't have any. And it was laughed at a little bit, but here it is, and it's starting to go. But I'm going to have to vote no for this project because it's not what I envisioned to happen here at the town center. And I'm sorry to some good friends that I have that are actually for it. I'm going to have to vote no. My conscience makes me do that. Okay.
Call the mayor, please.
Mayor DeBold,
Yes.
Is that 5-2, Madam
Maybe a
Clerk?
5-2 on the roll then.
Yes.
So item number 1's approved. Item number 2 be consideration for approval of an ordinance granting a conditional use for a planned unit development in the village of Shorewood, Will County, Illinois, Hamptons. This will be up for the second read. Trustee Brockman and Development Coordinator Engel.
Natalie, you can go ahead and make some points if you'd like.
Sure, and really both this agreement and the previous agreement that you voted on were tied together, so we went over them all at the same time. So I have nothing to add unless you have questions.
Anything else, council?
Just a reminder that, by virtue of approving the agreement, which already been executed by the owners, you have a contractual obligation to approve this planned unit development. So I just hope we get enough votes to do that. It's just a regular vote on this. There's no supermajority required.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a conditional use for a planned unit development in the village of Shorewood, Will County, Hamptons of Shorewood.
Second.
Motion Brockman, second Kirkland. Roll call, please.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
and Kirkland.
Yes.
Okay, the PUD is approved. Item number 3 would be consideration for approval of a professional service agreement with M.E. Simpson Company for the amount of $20,855 for the annual leak survey. Public Works Director Norio.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. So this is just our annual leak survey that is performed by M.E. Simpson. It is considered a best management practice. It helps staff with our water accountability. If you recall that with our IDNR lake water allocation, part of the requirements is that we maintain less than a 10% water loss in our system. So leak survey, staff from M.E. Simpson will listen in using equipment and hopefully detect and find leaks throughout our system, where then our in-house public works staff can make repairs accordingly. So this is actually a 2-year contract as shown in the amount of $20,855 per year. I will present this again next year just to confirm reapprovals of such. So staff is recommending approval of the professional services agreement with M.E. Simpson totaling $20,855 for our annual leak survey. Any questions?
We budgeted for this, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. I move to approve a professional services agreement with M.E. Simpson Company, Inc. in the amount of $20,855 for the annual leak survey program.
Second.
Motion Kirkland, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kirkland,
Yes.
and Luciano.
Yes.
All right,
Thank
the
you.
No problem. The agreement's approved. Consideration for approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the real estate contract in the purchase of 101 Grove Street. Ms. Engel and Director Klima.
Sure. This property is at 101 Grove Street. It's the corner of West Jefferson Street and Grove. The property is 0.6 acres and has a building on it. It's formerly a dwelling, was occupied by a law office for a number of years, and recently was occupied by the Alano Club of Joliet. We've proposed purchasing this building. It's in the TIF district. It is across Grove from our public works facility that we'll be vacating. It's in a redevelopment area, and we think it would be a good property to have. We're proposing purchasing this property with TIF funds. We'll be able to redevelop it in the TIF or sell it in the future if we'd like. The purchase price is $268,400. And as part of the agreement, we would enter into a purchase contract with the Alano Club of Joliet so that they could occupy it through the end of the year at a rate of $100 per month. There's also a certain amount being held back for maintenance reasons and whatnot.
This is obviously an item that we've discussed a couple different times. If there's any other questions.
Yeah, after December 2022, is there a contingency to stay longer, or is it that definitely ended?
That's the end of it, and they have plans to move to a different location. This will give them time to get that site ready.
Okay, thank you.
The property owner does have a representative in the audience. If you have questions for them, Todd Carter is in the audience in the back row.
And just to be clear, the village has a 60-day due diligence period also on this, and then at the closing, if we close, they'll post a $5,000 cash deposit. In the event they don't move out on time, they would forfeit that, in addition to any other remedies.
Thank you.
I'll motion for approval of a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a real estate contract in the purchase of 101 Grove Street, Shorewood, Illinois.
Second.
Motion Selfridge, second Kirkland. Roll call, please.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kirkland,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
and Selfridge.
Yes.
All right, the resolution is approved. Item number 6 will be consideration for approval of the purchase of hardware and software for a backup server to host from Current Technology Corporation in the amount of $19,383.61, and a payment at this time in the amount of $9,691.81, with the balance being paid following the installation of the equipment. Administrator, I'll let you,
So everyone's familiar.
providing a tongue twister.
Right. We hired Bill McCluskey. You guys are all familiar with him. In fact, he'll be here next month because we'll be proposing
some proposals for the audiovisual system, the community cable and whatnot. But this item here is part of the cybersecurity measures that we need to have in place to keep from being hacked and our disaster recovery. So with that, we get a risk management grant every year. I allocated those funds specifically for any IT needs we had this year. This exceeds our grant by a couple $100, but the vast majority of this will be covered by the SWARM grant. So we will expend the funds and then get a reimbursement. We've been doing that for 25, 30 years through our risk management pool. So what you see before you is just simply tools for him to make sure that our IT needs are safe and our disaster recovery is intact.
Any questions regarding the technology?
I'll motion for the approval of the purchase of hardware and software for a backup server host from Current Technology Corporation in the amount of $19,383.61 and payment at this time in the amount of $9,691.81 with the balance being paid following the installation of the equipment.
Second.
Motion Selfridge, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kirkland,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
and Brockman.
Yes.
All right, moving in item number 6, consideration for approval of an ordinance adopting a collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Shorewood and the Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council. This item is up for a first read. Chief Arnold and Administrator Klima.
We went over it in exec and we're prepared to answer any questions you might have.
If there's no further questions, I'll take the motion waiving the second read for adoption.
Move to approve an ordinance adopting a collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Shorewood and the Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council and waive the second read.
Second.
Motion Kirkland, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Chapman,
Yes.
Kirkland,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
and Carroll.
Yes.
All right, the contract's approved. We'll move into trustee comments for the evening. Trustee Brockman.
Only comment, our next meeting will be September 7th here at the Village. There was a few things mentioned in Natalie's report as far as what the agenda items will be, so if you want to mention those, Natalie, again, please.
Sure. There's a couple of things that are coming forward. We haven't quite figured out what's going to be on the agenda yet because some of them are racing to be able to get done so they can get shovels in the ground before the snow flies. But within either in September or early October, we'll be seeing the Shorewood Home and Auto renovation and building expansion. We'll also be seeing a pizza ranch sign variance and potentially a proposal to pave part of the lot at 303 Amon Dodge. So those are the three projects that are in the pipeline right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's my report, Mayor.
No problem. Trustee Carroll.
I have a question for Aaron. Can you give us an update on getting those water things out of the street there, like an island and out in Saddlebrook?
Okay.
Do you have anything you can share?
Short answer is there's a meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Thanks, Aaron.
That's the short answer.
That's the short answer. I mean, simply stated that there's not a plan in place on what to do with that water. So we know the water's being tested. We know the contractor has proposals in. It's up to the property owner with their insurance company to allocate funds for whatever will occur. And some of those might take Illinois EPA approval. That could take a long time. Our contingency is to have them relocated to the fire site. But again, we have a meeting tomorrow, so I hope to have better information tomorrow.
Okay,
Thank you. I know it's frustrating for everybody here, the residents. You know, we appreciate everyone's patience, but we are working on it all the time.
Thank you. That's all.
No problem. Trustee Chapman.
No report.
Trustee Kirkland.
Thank you. Thank you to all who submitted names and participated in surveys for our 32-acre park, which will be called River's Edge Park. The proposed concept plan for the new park was on display last Thursday during our party in the park and is available for viewing on our website for those who were unable to make it. White and Company, along with the planning team, will take input given at the community information event during Party in the Park to finalize the planning documents and assist the village in applying for an OSLED grant, which that'll be this fall. And the last thing I have, I'm always the one that brings this up, but I'd like to extend condolences to the family of Norma Bissett. She passed away on August 13th. For those of you that know Norma, she was employed here by the Village of Shorewood from 1982 to 2002. She always greeted people at the counter with a smile and was just a beautiful person, and she will be missed by many. That's my report.
Thank you. Trustee Luciano.
Just want to mention that the Citizens Advisory Committee will be meeting September 22nd. At that time, we'll have the library making a presentation. And as always, if anyone's interested in getting involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee, you can contact myself or any of its members through the village website. Our email addresses are all there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Selfridge.
No report. Thank you.
Real quick, and then just to touch on, as Trustee Carroll mentioned, and as the administrator mentioned, the Tri-County Stockdale fire that occurred back in the middle of July, we have been working diligently trying to get answers from the state. Just as the administrator mentioned, we do have some tanks still sitting on Highland Avenue, and there's a couple in Saddlebrook. They were very receptive at getting Black Road open, and they reacted to that pretty promptly. They seems to be a little bit of a stall right now at trying to get these last bit moved. So we are pushing for them to at least get them off the village roads and at least get them back onto the fire site. That's been our stance. And again, testing's been a little slow at getting responses and how to either discharge, treat, or whatnot with the water. So, but there is a meeting tomorrow, and we're hoping to get some more information from that. So that's probably the biggest thing in regards to that. And then I already discussed that we had the IDOT meeting earlier today. So with that, I take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion Kirkland, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Kirkland.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
And Chapman.
All right, we are adjourned.
Good.